Mike Comtech coming to you here with another video. I want to do a documentation here on a problem with a Squawker that I bought here on eBay. The mouth didn't move. Lower mouth, no movement here. And just a little history on the mechanism of how this works. We're going to get into all of that either before or after this video, you know, just depends whenever I post this, on how the head works and all the mechanics down in here. One motor runs all the head mechanism, the eye blinking and then the beak movement right here is controlled with one motor in this head. The other motor is in the body area that controls all the functionality of the wing movement, the way he moves back and forth, up and down. He can, you know, rock back and forth here on this, you know, move that. He can come up and down this direction. Quite a lot of things this bird can do. And then this is 2017 technology. So it's way, as far as I'm concerned, these were way ahead of their time. So anyway, I had a one that I purchased, like I said, and it came in, and I knew this. It was right in the listing that the motor, the mouth did not move, and that's why I bought it, because that's something for me to fix. So what you do here is, I mean, if you get lucky enough and fix the problem, which this one was a stuck motor in the head here. So kind of like the two instances on when I did some of the Hallmark toys that I was fixing, the animated snowman, a couple of those were nothing more than a stuck motor in there. And so I just was gently tapping around the area here, kind of moved the head a little. You don't want to move it too much because there are two control lines that run down into here on the lower body, and that motor also takes care of the head. The lower body motor takes care of the head moving back and forth and the head up and down, you know, so he can articulate that in any direction this way too. So I was tapping around gently, moving the head a little bit and applying about 3 volts to the motor, and that's what I was going to show you. This connector is pretty easy to get to. Take all the Velcro as far up as you can and as far down as you can, and then there are 3 tabs. Let me pull this out here a little bit, and that, get this tab up. Anyway, they'll look like I can't untuck that very well, but it's right there. But here's the other tab, and then here's the 3rd tab at the top. So as the bird is facing you, the back side of the bird is facing you, you'll be taking off all 3 of these snaps to the left side. The best tool I have found so far to do that is spade tools, metal like this, because you can go straight down into here, push that, there's a pin that pushes forward here and it catches that. So that's how that works. So when you push this back in there, there's a ledge here, and that will snap in right there behind this protruding piece of plastic here. And you push this in with the spade, those will pull right out, and you won't damage any of this at all doing that. And then we get into the wing removal later. Now that's a little different story. That's a little tougher, but by using this kind of a tool, either that head or this head, I found that this one really works good because it's fairly round at the end and it fits really nicely in that slot right there. So I just push it in, push that plastic tab back that releases this catch right here, and just pull it right out. So you have to release all 3. And actually, I'm going to lay him down here. So basically, you pull the fur back, and you can get to the pink or the purple connector, the JST connector, and that is well, it looks to be, I want to call that, you know, like an orange and blue, or it could be a brown and blue too. It's not really a true dark brown, it's kind of a cross, but anyway, you see the 2 different colors. And then they had, of course, they had corresponding matching JST connectors at the factory to facilitate, you know, the ease of to put them together in the factory. You know, the purple one plugs into the purple line, and then of course on the other side of the bird it has more connections over there as well, a lot more connections on that side. So, but these are the two wires right here that run straight up to the head motor, straight in. There's no, it doesn't go through any leaf switches up here. There's two leaf switches in the top up here head, but that's for the eye function. You're totally bypassing that when you're going in here, so you're going straight to the motor at this point. And so then I just used a couple of DuPont probes to put inside that, to stick in the JST connector, and then we run that right over to my lab power supply, and I dialed out about 3 volts. And then there's not really any polarity to it. There is, but there isn't if you're going to try that. So the way it is right now, I have that voltage set, and I've already got one hooked to the power supply, and I'm going to tap on the negative here. So that's the mouth movement. So the motor runs one way. This is opening the mouth. Okay. Now when the mouth opens, that motor does stall. So the transmission in the head does not slip on that. Now if I reverse the polarity here, put the negative over here, and I'll just tap the put the white one back on there. This will do the eyes. And so if I leave the power applied, then the eyes do their thing. That transmission had to switch back. So you're reversing the polarity, that switches the transmission, then that flips it to the eye function. And we'll get into that too later on how that works. But if I just keep applying voltage to that motor, the eyes will just, I got to reset that transmission there. I'm dialed down to 3 volts. I didn't want to give this thing too much, but I'll bring it back up to about, just bring this up to about a little over 3. That won't hurt anything. So if I just run that, then see the transmission is flipping the eye, and then also it's flipping those two switches at the top. But like I said, we're not going through the switches. We're talking straight to that motor at this point. We're talking straight in, straight into that motor. And when Squawker's talking, that polarity is one way on the motor, runs the lower jaw here, the lower beak, and then the controller reverses polarity when it wants to blink the eye, like that. If I pulse that, and if I pulse it just right, then I can get a closure like that, because he does do a closure about like when he's doing some routine, he'll do a half close on the eye and then open up fully like that. So I probably tapped just a millisecond there, or a 1/10 of a second, the tap to make it open, and then tap it again, and then and then I have to reverse it, and that'll run the beak, and then reverse it back the other way again, and then we'll blink the eye. So that's how that works. I wanted to document that. So anyway, I was tapping around here with the voltage applied, like I said, 3 volts or so, and all of a sudden I just happened to have the polarity correct where the eyes were blinking, so then it just repetitively blinked. So then I exercised the motor in the blinking function, just let it sit there and run on that. And I'm going to plug this JST connector back into the header, the JST header on the main board here. I'm going to plug this back into the circuit board JST right there. That's the main board right down here. It's below the battery box. And some of these probably got corroded really bad, and that can come out, that corrosion can come all the way down, because see the switches are right there too, and then that's on the main board there as well. So that main board starts about right here, and it comes down to ends about right here in the tail section. So I will plug that back in, and if you can see that there's a black JST that sits in there vertically. That's the I believe that one is the speaker output. So anyway, I'm going to hook him back up, and then we'll run him through some tests here. So I shall return.
1 minute later.
Okay, we're back, and put all three snaps back in here in the back. Snapped them all back down, plugged the JST connector, then snapped all the 3 snaps in. Closed up the Velcro to a certain point so I can still get to the switch here. He is working fine. And as usual, to do a test on any of the Squawkers, on the eye movement, you can take a little spade tool, take your finger, whatever. But there's a sensor, there's a photo sensor right there, right where you see my knife passing across right there. That's where that photo sensor is. And it's always a good idea to do that. Like if you have taught him to do certain commands when he talks back,
Pretty bird.
like if you'd say a certain command and he would say a custom setting, it's always a good idea to put your hand across, because see, if he's getting ready to do something, he'll ignore any input. But when he's in kind of hangout, then, yeah, see, now he was getting ready to do that.
Pretty bird.
Getting ready to do that. But anyway, if he's in hangout, if he's truly hanging out, then it'll do this. So if you put your hand over it, then you can start to give him a command, and then he'll be more apt to understand what you're talking about. Because otherwise he'll go into standby. There, it ignored that input because he tilted his head. And then there's a sensor right here on the, not really a sensor, it's a switch. If you hit the tongue switch, or when he says he's hungry, he'll open the mouth up. And if he starts to go to sleep, you can hit the remote if you have it. Highly recommended if you have the remote with these, because you lose tons of functionality if you do not have the remote control. You lose tons of functionality because these things are programmable. They can set pre-scripted inputs. So if I would hit, like for instance here, I'll back up, you can see it. If I hit
My
A,
mouth moved. Finally, thank you.
you're welcome. And then there's an infrared sensor. Microphone's about right here, and then there's an infrared sensor right here. So if I hit A, I've already programmed him to say a certain response on A.
I was the bird that had no mouth movement.
And then who fixed you up?
My contact fixed me.
And then I got, also, I did a custom record where if he's in mix mode right now on the switch in the back, so he can say these custom sounds.
My mouth moves. Finally, thank you.
So that would pop up every so often in random in the mix mode. But there's, I mean, my gosh, there's tons of things you can do with this. And of course the manual is still available online. You can go to Hasbro, do a search for Squawkers, Hasbro, and it's all still right there. So anyway, we're gonna run him for quite a while, and I exercised that motor quite a bit with the power supply, winking the eyes. So we'll see what happens. I don't hear any weirdness going on in the transmission in the head. You know, the motor is doing what it's supposed to. Yeah, that's right. And then there's fresh batteries in there, so that's a good thing.
My contact fixed me.
Yeah, we fixed you. Okay, well, this was a document video and to share with everybody, and myself included, so I can look back and see what I did for sure. So as always, thank you for watching my videos, and thank you for all the subscribers.
My contact fixed me.
Talk to you later.